Hello and welcome, Violet here, and today I want to talk to you about how it's been giving up social media for 1 year and giving up my smartphone for 3 years. It has now been 3 years. And there have been lots of sort of iterations of this, but with the smartphone, I never did go back to it. With social media, I have to here and there like go on and check things, but for the most part, I set all of my profiles to saying like on Instagram break. Anyway, it has done wonders for my mental health and my sense of well-being, my presence, my productivity. So I want to talk to you all about that today. So settle in and let's talk about it. So I have a whole review video on this if you want to check it out, but the phone that I use is the Light phone, and I love it. It's like this inky screen. There we go. I have it set so there's not even any backlight, like you literally need a light to shine on it and look at it. But let me read to you the things that are on it because I think you might be surprised. So we've got the phone, so you can basically make calls and text. We've got an alarm clock. You can set alarms. We have a calculator, which is handy. Directions, which I have a whole review video on how the directions work on this because it's kind of wild. But hey, it's really good to have it as a backup. And we have a hotspot. So if you're like on the go and you have your computer, if you have a tablet or something else, you need to access the internet, you can use the hotspot on this. And then you can also put music and podcasts on it. Then we've got settings. Now, when I first gave up my smartphone, there were a few months where I was just kind of using this like old sort of brick phone, and it was a huge relief. I immediately felt this intense relief. I would say maybe the biggest problem I run into is that these phones are so non-addictive that it's like actually a problem sometimes, like miss messages and stuff. But I've kind of had to just let people know, let people know that my phone sometimes dies and it might take me a couple days to get back to people. One of the really interesting things I did encounter with giving up a smartphone, and I also to a degree experienced this with social media, but more so when I gave up Facebook, which was like 2015. It was a long time ago that I gave up Facebook. But in both of those instances, I experienced people almost being like personally offended that I'd given those things up, and a lot of justification as to like why they need to use it for X, Y, and Z, which, it's like, oh, I'm doing this for me. I'm not actually like thinking that you should, or I'm not casting judgment on what you do, you know what I mean? So I encountered a lot of pushback in that way because smartphones and social media have become such an integrated part of people's lives. So I asked my community if they had any questions, and I have 2 really good questions that I want to address. The first one is from Celestial, and she asked, how has the change benefited you financially? I can imagine that not just your phone bill is lower, but do you find that you're less prone to impulse buying since you're not being exposed to advertising in your hand 24/7? Yes, yes, yes. But what's funny is I think the even bigger thing with this, it was not just giving up the smartphone, it was later giving up Instagram. Because I think Instagram, that's where the ads got me. They just knew what I liked or something. And Instagram got me. That's where I kept buying things. It was stuff that I saw and found through Instagram. So yes, huge. And the phone bill, so I'm on a plan through Light phone. It has limited data on it, but I don't really use the hotspot that often, and it costs me $30 something a month. So I find that to be very affordable. And the second question was from Lila, and she asked, what do you do for a GPS? Did you buy one for your car? So yes, we have found old Garmin's, those Garmin GPS things in thrift shops. And we pretty much, for very, very cheap, we pretty much pick one up whenever we see them because some of them seem to work better than others, but I have a dedicated one in my car that just works fabulously. And as a backup, if I'm on the go, if I need maps, I have this one. But I find the car Garmin one to be much more reliable. This, if you're in a new location, it kind of has to I don't know exactly how it is, it gets the information, but it might take a lot of time for it to adjust and figure out where you are. So it does work at a pinch, but I really prefer to use the Garmin. So for a while, I had my old smartphone available. It didn't have, my phone information in it. It just would like access the internet, and it had a camera, and I would keep it in my desk drawer because I used the camera on my phone a lot for like filming and for taking photographs and things that I needed for my business. But when my business scaled enough that I was able to invest in a really nice camera that's very easy to take on the go, I no longer had that need. So one of the big reasons, which you can see in my initial video when I gave up my smartphone for good, one of my initial reasons was having a baby, and I really didn't want him to grow up with too many screens or to see me on screens all the time or see me attached to my phone. I also wanted to spend more quality time with him, and I found myself whipping it out all the time when I wanted to like take cute photos and videos of him. Now, I am grateful having cute photos and videos of him, like when people take them, but I find that, I'm with him all the time. So I actually really prefer to take around a Polaroid camera, and I will snap photos very intentionally, like, this is something I want to remember, this is, some really cool activity we did, and let's take a Polaroid photo, and then I scrapbook them in my planner. So I'm keeping these memories in physical form in my planner, and that has been working really, really great for me. And I really don't miss having this sort of constant pull of like, I should somehow document something with my phone. And social media also takes that away. So for a while, I was just not really posting on social media, but I was on it and I was checking it, and I felt the need to be available on it, especially because without using my smartphone, a lot of people were Instagram messaging me instead. So the social media that I used was Instagram for personal and business stuff, and then Twitter just for business. But I found, especially if you're someone like me, like with an online business or like a side hustle or something like that, there's all of this pressure to use all of the different like platforms. I think TikTok is what did it for me. I was like, I really don't want to use TikTok or be on it. But the truth is, having those few things and really just putting all of your focus into those is better, I think, than spreading yourself thin by feeling like you have to use all of them. So for me, and I don't know if you would exactly count this as social media, I think it serves similar purposes, at least business-wise. I just use YouTube and Twitch, that's where I stream from, and Discord. That's where I talk to people in my community. So I basically left away messages. I didn't delete the other platforms, but I just said, not using Instagram, not using Twitter anymore. Here's my schedule. You can find me in these other places. And that's how I handled it, because there might be people who try to, find me through those platforms, and then they have a place to be directed. You could put your contact information, like your email. But even those things, I still have to limit my use because I can easily get sucked in, especially since this is what I'm doing like as my business. So I have, gone through different periods with figuring out how to do this. But for now, I've recently made the move to just keep my laptop, which is the only way that I'm accessing these things, keep my laptop in my workspace, which is like a separate room. It's a studio, and I keep it plugged in, kind of like it's just like a computer, and I use it that way. And so I intentionally come in, I'll check things in the morning, I'll come in to actually do my work during my son's nap time. And then sometimes if, my husband's home, I might come in, put on something, I mod for my friend, so maybe I'll be modding for her and working on creative projects at the same time. But I kind of have those 3 points in the day right now where I'll check things. Now, I pretty much have to check things every day because I have things like, for example, I give readings on Etsy that I say, I'll get back to you within 24 hours. So I have to have at least 2 dedicated points in the day to check. So to make sure that I hit, anything that comes in within 24 hours, because two points pretty much guarantees that I'm gonna, at similar times of the day, like I'm gonna see it. So that also allows us to even like turn the Wi-Fi off at night. and just put all of the technology to bed. And I think that reading before bed, like not looking at screens, I have a whole video on this too. Oh my gosh, I'm linking so many videos in this one. It really helps with sleep too. So then we're feeling better rested, then we're less prone to, when you're feeling tired or upset, you're more prone to turn towards those things that distract you, that kind of like take you away from the experience of life, because, maybe your experience of life in that moment just like isn't ideal. Feeling tired, also feeling happier. I think that social media can oftentimes drain on our happiness. We're more likely to compare ourselves to other people. We're more likely to feel like we should be doing certain things differently. We might be exposed to things that, like strike us unexpectedly. That might be very upsetting. So again, I consciously choose when I'm looking at stuff and what I'm looking at. I have literally gained so much time, I feel, from giving up the smartphone in particular. And this phone also kind of made me obsessed with like inky screens. I just love the look of them. So I started also using the FreeWrite, which is basically like you can write and type and draft. I love to write, so I use this to write, and I feel better about like working on things around my son too when I'm using this. It's less like he's drawn to it, and wants to like see. It's like we're both kind of working alongside each other, where he's like building something incredible and I'm like writing, And I also tend to read a lot off of my Kindle, which is the same kind of screen. There's something just very aesthetically pleasing about the inky screen devices being used together. But I also like to read like physical books and write in physical journals too. Another big thing that I had to do as a content creator is decide that I'm going to be creating more than I'm consuming. So like I said, I still do use like YouTube and Twitch, and those are the platforms where I do my business and I put my work out there. So I want to see, what other people are doing, and I want to have that time to consume. So I also it feeds to a degree what I end up doing if I have that experience as a viewer on the other side. But if you go past the point, if you start consuming, I think, more than you create, then it actually ends up taking away. So I think that there's a sweet spot here, because I totally get that having to sort of research or have the experience of being a viewer, especially if you're trying to, make a business online. It's like technology are tools, so we run them. They shouldn't run us. So a couple things I wanted to mention too is just overall digital minimalism. So actually when I gave up my smartphone, I also did a few things to make my experience with technology feel more calm. So I opened up a new email account, and I just set up a forever vacation message on my old email that was like, if you want to contact me, email me here. I'm not using this one anymore. And I moved from Gmail to Runbox. Now, this is a service you have to pay for. It's very, very cheap. I think I only pay for it every 2 years or something like that. Anyway, it felt worth it to me. It's a company that runs off of renewable energy, and it's very private and secure. And it just cuts way back on the spam. So when I moved to this email, I was very intentional about if I'm putting my email in anything, that I don't actually want to receive emails from that list or that place or whatever it is. I use my Gmail email because I can always go check that, get a verification code if I need or whatever. And I really keep all of the correspondences that I want to have with Runbox. I also like that I can have my business email, my personal email, all of this going to the same place. And they all have different names, or I can check each box. If I don't want to look at my business email, I just want to look at my personal email, I can check and uncheck the box and I can see that in my inbox. But it just has a very calm feel, and it just feels like there's less spam, less advertisements, and stuff like that happening. I also switched my default search engine to Ecosia. It's for every so many searches, they plant trees, and then they have reports on how it's going and where these trees are being planted. And it just has better energy, I think. I also even switched my bank account to Aspiration Bank because that felt better and more ethically aligned with what I wanted to do. This is just overall thinking about the places that I go when I'm on my computer, and how can my experience of those feel better and less like sucking you in or taking your attention or putting your energy or your money into things that maybe you don't want to as much. So this could also mean cutting back on subscriptions to like streaming services and things that you don't use anymore, and just like really kind of keeping things minimal and intentional. That has really, really helped me. So I'm not going to make this video too long because I have other ones where I talk about various things, but I would love to hear what you think. We can keep the conversation going in the comments because I think this is such an important topic and definitely one that has been life-changing to me, one that I'm super, super passionate about. So thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.